At this moment in galactic history, an entire world died. Not through war, not through plague, not through natural disaster. Every city, every forest, every ocean, every living creature vanished in a single moment. And the architect of that horror was not an army. It was one man, a Sith Lord whose hunger for power would reshape the fate of the galaxy for the next 1,500 years. His name would become legend, Darth Vitiate. But before he ruled an empire hidden in the unknown regions, before he became the immortal Sith Emperor, he was something far more terrifying, a boy named Tenebrae. And what he did on the world of Nathema would become the most horrifying ritual the Sith had ever attempted. To understand the ritual of Nathema, we must travel far beyond the borders of the Galactic Republic. After the Great Hyperspace War, the ancient Sith Empire had been shattered. Republic fleets destroyed their worlds. Jedi hunted down their Dark Lords, and the surviving Sith fled into the shadows of the galaxy. But not all Sith were destroyed. Hidden in the unknown regions, on a remote world called Medrias, a dark legacy was quietly growing. Medrias was a world steeped in the dark side. Its ruling dynasty had been influenced by Sith traditions for generations, and into this world, around 5113 BBY, a child was born. His name was Tenebrae. From the moment he entered the galaxy, something was wrong. Even before he could speak, animals fled from him. Servants whispered that shadows moved unnaturally around the child. And by the age of 6, Tenebrae had already committed his first murders. He poisoned his own father. Then he slaughtered his entire family. But these killings were not driven by rage. They were experiments. The young Tenebrae was fascinated by the dark side, and the control it gave him over life itself. Few in the Republic understood what was happening on Medrias. But what was growing there would soon eclipse every Sith Lord who had come before. As Tenebrae grew older, his power became impossible to ignore. By his teenage years, he had already begun manipulating the rulers of Midrias. Sith Lords who ruled the world believed they were guiding him. In truth, they were being studied. Tenebrae absorbed every fragment of Sith knowledge he could find. Ancient holocrons, dark rituals, forbidden experiments. But unlike other Sith, Tenebrae was not driven by ambition alone. He had a far greater vision. The Sith had always fought each other for power. Their empires rose and fell through betrayal and war. To Tenebrae, this weakness was unacceptable. If the Sith were to conquer the galaxy, they needed something greater, something eternal. He began studying ancient Sith alchemy and the forbidden secrets of immortality. What he discovered horrified even the most ruthless Sith scholars, because the power he sought did not simply require death. It required extinction. Tenebrae believed that true immortality could only be achieved through a ritual that consumed the life force of an entire world. Every living being, every organism, every trace of life. The energy of that sacrifice would be channeled into a single vessel, him. But even Tenebrae knew he could not perform such a ritual alone. He needed help. And the Sith Lords of Midrias, unknowingly, provide it. Tenebrae began gathering the most powerful Sith on the planet. He told them he had discovered a ritual that would grant unimaginable power, a ceremony that would unite the Sith and usher in a new age. For ambitious Dark Lords hungry for power, the offer was irresistible. Hundreds of Sith traveled to Medrius to participate. They believed they were about to unlock the ultimate secret of the dark side. What they did not understand was that they were not participants, they were fuel. At the center of Medrius, the Sith constructed a massive ritual circle, ancient runes carved into the planet's surface. Sith chanting echoed across the world. Dark side energy built to unimaginable levels. Storms formed across the skies. The Force itself seemed to recoil. Then the ritual reached its final stage, and Tenebrae revealed the truth. The Sith Lords gathered around him suddenly realized what was happening. But it was too late. The ritual had already begun. The dark side erupted across the planet. A wave of energy surged outward. Cities collapsed. Forests withered instantly. Entire oceans became silent. The life force of every living thing on Medrius was ripped from existence and dragged into the ritual. Billions of beings died in a single moment. Even the Sith who had helped Tenebrae were consumed. Their power was devoured along with the rest of the world. When the storm finally ended, Medrius was gone. Not destroyed, not burnt, simply dead. No animals, no plants, no microbial life. Even the Force itself had been scarred. The planet would forever be known by a new name, Nathema, the world where life had been erased. At the center of that lifeless world, one being remained, Tenebrae. But he was no longer the same creature who began the ritual. The power of an entire planet now flowed through him. The ritual had granted him exactly what he desired: immortality. His body no longer aged. His connection to the dark side had become almost limitless. He had achieved something no Sith had ever done before. He had consumed a world. In the aftermath of the ritual, the few Sith who had not attended the ceremony arrived on Nathema. They found a planet devoid of life, and a single figure standing in its center. Tenebrae, now calling himself Vitiate. The surviving Sith immediately understood what had happened, and they understood something even more terrifying. They were standing before a being who had surpassed every Sith Lord in history. None dared challenge him. Instead, they bowed. Vitiate declared himself the Sith Emperor. But unlike the chaotic Sith empires of the past, his rule would be absolute. No rival Sith Lords, no endless betrayals, no internal wars. Vitiate would rule forever, and the Sith Empire would serve a single purpose: the eventual destruction of the Republic and the Jedi. But first, the Empire had to disappear. Following the destruction of Nathema, Vitiate led the surviving Sith into the unknown regions, hidden beyond the reach of Republic exploration. He began building a new empire in secret. A world called Dramond Kaz became the new capital. There, the Sith Empire rebuilt itself in darkness. While the Republic believed the Sith were extinct, Vitiate was preparing for war. And unlike previous Sith leaders, he had something none of them possessed: time. He was immortal. He could plan wars that would unfold over centuries. He could manipulate generations. He could wait. For more than 1,300 years, the Sith Empire remained hidden, growing, preparing. And when the time was right, Vitiate unleashed the Sith once more. The galaxy would remember this conflict as the Great Galactic War. But the true beginning of that war did not start with fleets or armies. It began on a silent planet, a world stripped of life, a scar in the Force itself, a warning of what happens when the dark side is pursued without limit. Because Nathema proved something that even the ancient Sith had never imagined. One Sith Lord could devour a world, and the being who achieved that power was only getting started. But the ritual of Nathema was only the first step in Vitiate's plan, because centuries later, the Sith Emperor would attempt something even more horrifying. Not the destruction of a single planet, but the consumption of the entire galaxy. And the Jedi who would rise to stop him would become legends.